Well, again, good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining our call tonight. My name is Hania Jodat, and I am the Senior Partnership Coordinator for Roots Action and the Strategist for Diffuse Nuclear War. I'm joined tonight by my colleague Sam Rosenthal, former staff member of Our Revolution and the Political Director for Roots Action. Before we dive into tonight's agenda, I want to take a moment to ground us in the work and the mission of Roots Action, the organization that has brought us so many of us together so many times. Since its founding in 2011 by journalist and activist Norman Solomon and Jeff Cohen, Roots Action has been a driving force in progressive grassroots organizing. What sets Roots Action apart is its fearless commitment to truth, justice, and bold systemic change, not just tinkering at the margins. This is an organization that doesn't shy away from challenging power, whether it's the far right or the corporatist center. Through its issue campaigns and public education efforts, Roots Action has taken the lead in opposing U.S. militarism, standing up for whistleblowers, defining civil liberties, and pushing the Democratic Party to be the party of the working people, not the big donor, not the big donors. Roots Action has also launched powerful campaigns like the Teacher Network, which connects communities with experts on peace, civil rights, and justice, and the Diffuse Nuclear War Coalition, which I am a part of, and we mobilize hundreds of protests across the country to reduce the threat of nuclear conflict. And when it comes to elections, Roots Action has been instrumental and has helped elect truly progressive champions like Representative Rashida Tlaib, Summer Lee, and our former Congress member Jamaal Bowman, while also speaking hard truth, like when we launched the Step Aside Joe campaign urging President Biden not to seek re-election. In short, this is a community of action, not just analysis. And tonight, what that work continues. Before we organized this call, we were thinking about what would be the best route to go in helping come together as progressives. And we figured it's not, although we have to talk about the past and the issues that the Democratic Party faces and continues to face, is how do we move forward? And so our agenda tonight is very full. Once we hear from our esteemed speakers, we will be joined in a call to action. So we encourage you all to stick around until the very end. We ask that you please encourage healthy debates and disagreements and stay on topic in the chat and post your questions from our speakers because we will have an opportunity to ask those questions. I also want to recognize our honorable panel of speakers tonight. We will have with us, our former representative from New York, Jamaal Bowman, former state senator of Ohio, and the founder of We Are Somebody, Nina Turner, and Nikki Gott, one of the lead organizers of Climate Defiance. Michael Greenberg, who is the executive director of Climate Defiance, was unfortunately pulled last minute into a very urgent meeting. He wasn't able to join us tonight, but instead we have with us his replacement, who I've been honored to work with. And before we give the floor to Nikki, I do want to play a video that he sent to us, to our audience members, to recognize Roots Action, and then we will move forward with introducing Nikki. So I'll hand it off to you, Sam, if you could play the video for us.
Hey crew, this is Michael Greenberg. I'm the founder and executive director of Climate Defiance. I know these times are dark, but it's movements like the ones you all are a part of. It's activism, it's organizing that is changing the tide, that is materially changing what is happening in the world. We can rise up, we can resist, we can defy the fascists who are trying to trample our rights. We need to be bold, we need to be brave, and we need to do everything we can to seize power in this moment. So thank you so much for being here, and I'm excited to be with you in this fight.
Well, we send you all of our love, Michael, and I cannot wait to send you this video. So without further waiting, I would love to hand the virtual microphone to Nikki Gott, who is the Bay Area organizer for Climate Defiance. I've had the opportunity to share the same space with them just recently for a fundraiser for Climate Defiance, and they are just full of love and joy. And it's always an honor to be with you in the same space. They have a half of decade of direct action organizing experience and 5 years in tech, combining deep knowledge of digital security and web technologies with fierce commitment to movement work. Nikki has helped lead direct actions and local base building to targeting corporate and political actors driving climate collapse. As a former hub coordinator with Sunrise Movement Bay Area, Nikki played a key role in coordinating actions, building coalitions, and training new organizers in creative nonviolent resistance. Nikki also has created murals and other forms of street art to amplify messages in direct actions. Nikki graduated from Harvey Mudd College with a degree in computer science. Take the floor, please, Nikki, and tell us exactly how Climate Defiance is engaged in this moment. Talk about the 2026 agenda and tell us how we can help you in your mission. Take it away, please.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me on and appreciate the introduction. Um, so as we heard from Michael, the times are really dark and we're seeing this attack on our daily lives in so many different ways in our communities. And with this, the attack is really coming from very centrally Project 2025. And this is where Climate Defiance has come up with their way to fight this, which they call Project 2026. So this is Climate Defiance's response to the Trump administration and the authoritarian takeover. And we're going to do what we do best, which is disruptive, nonviolent, direct action to confront these fascist forces and their sympathizers who are torching our planet, the attack on marginalized people, and the eviscerating of the federal government for the profits for a few. We will also branch into newer modes of action like deep community organizing and creative comms to lay the groundwork for an end to the Trump regime. Most of the time, a lot of these actions and a lot of this organizing has been more so on the East Coast in New York and Washington, D.C., and have been very excited to join on this year over in the Bay Area, in California, and to continue this fight kind of all across the nation. So with this campaign in mind, our goals are to disrupt the Trump regime, their billionaire friends, and the Democrats who fail to defy them, inspire the public to take courageous action against the fascists, and force the more liberal figures to take action. So with these goals, we've broken this down into 4 pillars of our approach. The first one is to confront the billionaire or oligarchs directly. So this year, we confronted Bill Gates, who has emissions of 6 million tons through private jets and other sorts of ways. And we see this with all the billionaires. The top 1% is emitting more than the bottom 50% globally, which is just an outrageous number. We also will target folks propping up billionaires. A couple months ago, we confronted Larry Summers, who was giving a talk to undergrad Stanford students about why they shouldn't have a wealth tax in our nation. And how can we keep anyone accountable when these giant tax breaks are going out and the billionaires are not paying for anything as far as their climate damage they're causing? Then it comes to our second pillar, which is to confront Musk directly. We saw some recent news about Elon Musk possibly leaving Doge. Maybe it's already happened, but we can see in our movement that we're thrusting ourselves into the narrative. We see Tesla takedowns going on all across the world. Millions of people have been mobilizing for countless of protests. And just yesterday, folks in the Bay Area organized a protest because it is SF Climate Week, and as well, it is their earnings report had just come out, and we're going to continue the pressure. We're going to show that Tesla is the greenwashing empire of Musk's big companies and also greenwashing empire of the world. Can you believe that in California, the second worst polluter is from the Tesla factory? And we have countless refineries. The only one that's beating it is Chevron. This is just an unbelievable number. The third pillar, we're going to go after Democratic leadership and keep them accountable. Folks like Chuck Schumer, who has received so much heat for caving in to the GOP bill. And we're here to go up to these folks that are just going to roll over to Trump's plans and not fight back. And we're going to say step up or step aside. And the last tier, this one I think has been a little bit different, and we've seen it in different ways. We're going to go after movable Republicans. And what we want to target in a lot of this is we're seeing a lot of these votes coming through in government, really coming down to just a few votes on both sides. So we really want to thrust into these more weaker Republicans who may actually flip their votes on certain things. And we want to force them to either break up with Trump, Musk, or embarrass themselves in front of their constituents. And we've seen this. We went after Mike Lawler just a few weeks ago, and we confronted Brian Fitzpatrick at a St. Patrick's parade over in Bucks County in Pennsylvania. So with all of this is our approach, our campaign. It's growing, and I'll put in the chat a form that you can pledge, sign up for getting some emails, and possibly if organizing is coming towards your town, then getting alerted and getting plugged in to some of these efforts.
Nikki, and just recently I was looking on Instagram, and you all interrupted the mayoral candidate for New York, his event just recently. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Cuomo's event.
Yeah, so we're seeing this mayoral race going on in New York, and yeah, folks over there just disrupted his event. Many brave folks going towards the stage, speaking truth to power, and really calling out these things that a lot of these folks that are bought out and are really just ruining the planet in the process, and speaking a lot of those facts that are actually happening that they're just digging under them and don't want us to hear about. So it's amazing to see kind of this many folks really rising up and really thrusting a lot of these folks out of polite society.
Yes, and I think one of the key important things that you talked about here is also confronting the Democrats, right? And the oligarchs that have given us Trump, right? And I think a part of what's really important is, and why this call is very important, is because we're not just going to criticize the Republicans, but the Democrats who put us in a situation where we now have to confront a literal fascist in the White House. So I just want to say thank you so much for your time, and give Sam an opportunity to ask a question if you have any. And if you have any questions in the chat, I know Nikki is going to be sticking around with us for a bit to answer questions that you have. But I think, I'm excited to get more engaged with in terms of organizing on the ground. I know I've been helping a little bit with other initiatives with climate defiance, but just, yeah, tell us more about how you want to get involved, and I mean, how we can get involved. Or Sam, if you have a question, go ahead and ask away.
Sure, yeah. First, I just want to remind folks that you can put questions you have for us or for our panelists in the Q&A, and we'll make sure to get to them. It's a little bit harder if you put them in the chat. We have to scroll back to find them. So please use that Q&A box that's at the bottom of your screen there. Nikki, I was wondering if you could just tell us a little bit about the role that you see the climate movement broadly playing in defeating Trumpism. What is like the niche that the climate movement fills in fighting Trumpism?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think there's a lot of ways to answer it. And I think we see a lot. What I see through climate justice work is that it expands and extends to so many walks of life, so many human rights issues, social justice, and other sorts of pieces. And where I see the climate movement coming in is this is an attack on our futures. It's for us young people. We may not even have a world to live in by our decades from now. So it's really just an existential threat that we need to always make sure we're keeping in mind and keeping at the top level. And this extends so much more into a lot of these other pieces, because we see folks that are in more poor communities folks that are Black and brown, BIPOC communities, we see them kind of getting the brunt of the climate crisis right in their homes. So it extends and connects so deeply through a lot of these movements. So in order to combat a lot of this right now, I think really plugging in and making those connections as we all kind of come to fight this together and really show our power and strength. And, I really see Climate Defiance's role in, what we've really been doing these last couple years in these kind of direct actions in this space. And I think making sure we encompass the moment that we're in order to really show and speak truth to power in a lot of these moments that we take.
Thank you so much, Nikki. And we're joined by former Representative Jamaal Bowman. I'm going to hand it off to you, Sam, to make the introduction. Welcome here, Jamaal, and Sam, take it away.
Great. Thank you, Hanya. Thanks so much for being here tonight. We're so thrilled to welcome you back, former Congressman Jamaal Bowman. Less than a year after a deeply contested primary race, Congressman Bowman is not only undeterred, he's stepping back onto the political stage with renewed purpose. His new organization is called Built to Win, and it's poised to be a powerful counterbalance to the influence of entrenched, well-funded groups like AIPAC and the United Democracy Project. Built to Win is laser focused on engaging non-white voters who feel abandoned by a party that too often takes their support for granted. It's about recentering our politics around justice, equity, and the people who are too often left out of the conversation. Jamaal Bowman isn't just a politician, he's a former middle school principal who brought the moral clarity of an educator to Congress. In 2020, he unseated a 16-term do-nothing incumbent, that's my editorializing, by running on an unapologetically anti-racist, anti-poverty platform backed by Justice Democrats. His voice, his courage, and his vision are exactly what this moment demands, and we're honored to have him with us tonight. Welcome.
Thank you, Sam, so much for that warm introduction. Hello, everyone. Peace and love to you all. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you all for being on this call. And thank you all for continuing to organize and be a part of this work. And thank you for allowing me to speak a little bit about Built to Win. Before I get into detail around what Built to Win is looking to do, I want to start out by saying Built to Win, or no single organization can do this work alone. The far right is incredibly organized. The pro-genocide, apartheid, AIPAC lobby, they are incredibly organized. And they've been doing this organizing for decades. And what they have is an ecosystem of C3s, C4s, PACs, and super PACs working together to turn our democracy into a dictatorship controlled by oligarchy. This is their mission. This is their vision. This is what they've been doing. So Built to Win is a PAC. It's a hybrid PAC designed to respond to some of that work. But I want to say up front, we are looking to be in community and coalition with others so that we can work in partnership. This work cannot be done alone by one person, one group, one individual, or one organization. It has to be all of us. But the reason why I started Built to Win is because we know what's happening in our democracy, right? The majority of the people that we need to engage in order for us to win big elections, they are not voting. They're not voting at a consistently high level. And the reason why they're not voting, because they don't want to support a broken system, designed to harm them. Why do they want to get involved in that system if it's designed to harm them? So what I hope to do, and working with others, what I pray that we are able to do, I pray that we are able to engage the disengaged voters, not just during election season, but all year round. So we are laser focused on year-round engagement and year-round organizing. And we are also laser focused on connecting that field work, so door to door, street traffic, supermarkets, barbershops, churches, houses of worship, et cetera, et cetera. That field work with digital work, digital organizing as well. Because the majority of the people we want to reach, we're talking about younger, working class people of all backgrounds, but particularly working class people of color, they are engaging in digital spaces. They're on YouTube constantly. So how do we organize the digital work with the field work and to get our communication apparatus on point where we are not just you know, talking to people or at people, but we are engaging them and driving the work we do with their voices. Like this has to be of, by, and for the people. And so that is what Built to Win is looking to do. We are looking to mobilize 5 million new engaged voters by 2028. But in between now and then, we have to start in our local communities on the ground. Not only was there record money spent against me in my race, and I was, it was spent against Nina Turner initially, then they came for me, then they came for Cori Bush. Not only did that happen in terms of the record amounts of money coming in, but what we also saw was Black and brown people, the ones who actually voted, they were not swayed by that money. So they were anchored in the values that we as progressives and we who fight for working class people, they believed in that mission and they still do. But the challenge was not enough people came out to vote. And one of the reasons why is because we only engaged them, and this is our mistake, during election season. So I'm trying to learn from that mistake. Year-round organizing, connecting field to digital, to a communication strategy way before election season, and then working in partnership with C4s and C3s along the way. And so that is how we are going, as one way, we're going to beat the AIPACs of the world and the far right nationalist organizations that are out there that are fully funded by billionaires, as we know. And so for us on this call, as we know, the more organized we are, not just around Built to Win, but the more we're organized with our dollars, the more we're organized in terms of working with different organizations, the stronger we are. And then I'll say this. So many of us are doing incredible work in silos. I am looking for a couple of things. One, Built to Win is in the process of buying the national voter file because I want to understand everything I can about everything that happened in the 2024 election. I want Built to Win, and I personally want to be as data-driven as possible as I do this work, right? That's going to be very helpful for us to make strategic decisions in different communities. But I also would love, and I don't know who on the call has done this or knows someone who's doing this or wants to do this, what is the database of the left that helps us all to understand who's doing what in different states, different municipalities, different zip codes across the country? Do we have a database that gives us like a snapshot picture of what's going on? What organizations are doing work where, who's running for what election where should we put our dollars strategically to win big elections? Because it's not just about winning elections in Congress or in the House and the Senate. It's about state elections, county elections, local elections, school board elections. So I want to build a master database. If someone's building it, let me know. If someone wants to build it, let's work together. I want to work with data scientists, because our enemies are doing these things. I found out after my race that AIPAC hired a data scientist from Cambridge to build a platform specifically to go after me. And so these tools are available. We have to use these tools to our advantage and for our humanity. And so thank you again for having me. Really appreciate everyone on this call. Please, as you exist in the world, do everything you can to Guard your joy and your humanity in a world that is evil, and it's showing us that it is evil by the day. We have to guard our joy. We have to guard our humanity, because after we win, we have to build a world that is rooted in that humanity. So thank you all so much. Looking
if I
forward to
may,
working with you.
if I may take this opportunity to ask a quick question, I know your time
Yes.
is very limited with us, Jamal. To those folks who want to run for office, but they are just so nervous about organizations and groups like APAC coming after them, what is your recommendation? What is your suggestion? I think, after coming after Senator Nina Turner, yourself, Representative Cori Bush, there is a fear that if we as progressives run, we're challenged by millions of dollars in negative ads, right? Not just by APAC, but also by crypto as well. So, what is your suggestion to these folks who are nervous?
I don't want to curse, but my first reaction was fuck APAC. That's my first reaction. Because we cannot make decisions based on fear. We have to be honest, we have to be knowledgeable, and we have to use that integrity and that knowledge to make strategic decisions as we decide to run. But if you're running for office, you're running because you care deeply about something. You're running because you love something. And love is more powerful than anything else. Love is more powerful than whatever APAC is going to do. And so I ran because I was tired of my students being harmed by this political system. And I cared so deeply about that issue that I was going to run to try to fight for them. So whatever came with that, I was willing to take. You all, whoever's going to run, you're going to run for an issue you deeply care about, that you deeply love. It could be education, it could be children, it could be climate, it could be jobs, it could be war, it could be Gaza, whatever it is. You're running because of something that connects very deeply to your own humanity. And so that humanity is more powerful than anything else. So APEC's going to do whatever they're going to do. But here's what I would also say, and this is why getting organized and being organized is so important. They can't stop us all. And so the more people out there running for justice, running for humanity, running for Gaza, running for children, running for civil rights, the more people out there running on business, as they say, the more powerful we are. APAC can't come after all of us.
Congressman, if I could just jump in with a question. I
Yes.
just want to talk about what's happening in the moment. There's polling recently that shows that the Democratic Party is at its least popular point, I think maybe in like the last 50 years or something. The party's really in a bad spot. And so, as someone who's been inside the machinery of the party, who's sort of seen how the sausage is made, what do you think the Democrats need to change? What's like the one thing they need to change about the way they're currently operating? Or I'm sure there's more than one, but what's the most important for them to win back constituents and win back the favor of the public?
I'm not concerned about the Democrats, man. I'm concerned about the people. So anybody running for office, you're not running to save the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party got to save itself. And so when you run for the people. You run to serve the people in your community, period. If you happen to be a Democrat, so be it. But we're running to serve the people of, by, and for the people. That is what we're doing. What I would suggest to the party is to stop working with organizations that take money from Nazis, stop taking corporate PAC money, stop allowing billionaires to shape your platform, stop supporting genocide, and start uplifting the voices in your party that the American people want to hear from. Voices like Ayanna Presley. I want to hear from Ayanna Presley all day. Voices like Rashida Tlaib. Voices rooted in justice, voices rooted in democracy and what it's supposed to represent. So elevate the voices of people who are real fighters and who make hard decisions for the country, actually. Listen, you could probably imagine, and I spoke to Hania about this before. You could probably imagine how hard it was after October 7th not to sign on to the resolution that AIPAC wrote for Congress and to be an original co-sponsor of the ceasefire resolution. You could imagine how hard that must have been for Corey and Rashida, who wrote it, and for all of us who were original co-sponsors of it. We had the entire political establishment against us. I don't just mean in Washington, I mean in states. You remember everyone was coming out. We stand with Israel, everyone. And we had the audacity to fight for human rights. And to speak the names of Palestinians who were slaughtered. We had the audacity to do that. And so the Democratic Party needs to harness that energy, the energy of courage and humanity and values and principles and justice. But as we know, they're very far away from that. So that would be my suggestion. But in terms of my day-to-day work, I'm not doing anything I'm doing to save the Democratic Party or to help it. I'm trying to make sure the children in my district have an excellent education and a safe place to live and food on the table. And I hope to encourage them to get involved in politics a little bit so they could vote these genociders out of office.
Thank you, Representative Bowman, for being with us, for sharing your wisdom with us. As we've heard from our speakers tonight, we're in a very pivotal moment in our democracy, which is a moment that really truly demands courage, clarity, and action. Roots Action, in partnership with Representative Ro Khanna and Progressive Democrats of America, is actually leading the call for the Democratic National Committee to convene an emergency meeting. And this urgent demand arises in response to the growing authoritarian threats posed by the the Trump administration and its blatant disregard for our constitutional norms, the rule of law, and the democratic institution. So this is really not a time for political caution or passive observation. The DNC must act not in the distant future, but now. And so the purpose of this emergency meeting would serve as a critical space for the party to strategize, mobilize, and reaffirm its commitment to defending our democracy and civil liberties. And I know that you mentioned with so much heart tonight, Jamaal, that your fight is for the people, but we also have to very much hold our leadership accountable to not delivering, because they gave us a Trump administration, just without a doubt. So tonight's call to action, at the end of the call, and I'm encouraging everyone to do stick around. Our call to action is very simple. It's very urgent. We're asking you to contact your state's Democratic Party representative and demand that they join the call for an emergency DNC meeting in collaboration with Representative Khanna, Roots Action, and Progressive Democrats of America. But we do have another wonderful, wonderful speaker who I call a sister, mentor, and someone who's guided me through the darkest times of my life, former Senator Nina Turner, who's also with us. Ooh, I can say a lot about her, but Nina Turner is a seminal political leader, a fierce public intellectual, and a self-described hell-raising humanitarian who has inspired millions with her unapologetic advocacy for equity, dignity, and democracy. She is the founder and president of We Are Somebody, a coalition building organization rooted in lifting up the voices of the working class and uniting movements across race, class, and geography. A former Cleveland City Council member and Ohio State Senator, she made history as the first Black woman elected to represent her ward and went on to serve as the 25th Senate District with courage and clarity. Nationally, she's best known for her leadership as a senior surrogate for Senator Bernie Sanders in 2016 and as national co-chair of his 2020 campaign, mobilizing millions across around a bold justice center political vision. Nina Turner is also a senior fellow at the Institute on Race, Power, and Political Economy at the New School, where she carries forward the legacy of civil rights giants like Asa Philip Randolph, Bayard Rustin, and Dr. King by championing the freedom budget for all Americans. She understands that the Black liberation struggle and the labor movement are not separate fights, they are the same fight. It's always an honor to be in the same space with you, and take it away, sister.
Thank you, Hanya, so very much. And yes, we are sisters. To Nikki and to the congressman, I really appreciate everything that they had to say for climate defiance in particular. When you're putting your bodies on the line in the face of this type of neo-fascism, it is absolutely a sight to see. And I hope that everyone that has joined us tonight will continue to support their work. If we are all on a team, different members of the team have different positions, and organizations like Climate Defiance, they play in a very pivotal and also dangerous position given the threats that this administration poses, extra threats. They were already always under threat, even with the Democrats. To the congressman, I really appreciate his bold analysis on this party and the fact that he said that his organization is not to lift up the Democratic Party, is to lift up the people. And I say amen to that. I've often said that I am in the party, but not of the party, meaning I don't worship at the feet of any political party. I worship God and I serve the people. And I don't mind bumping up against the Democratic Party because they are the reason why we do have a President Donald J. Trump 2.0. They need to do a real autopsy. Big ups to RootsAction for always pushing hard when other people do not. And again, everybody plays a different role, but RootsAction has been there consistently, standing up even when it was unpopular and calling the Democratic Party out, warning the Democratic Party that this could and might happen. Just love you all so much. Norman, Sam, Hanya, Bill, everybody. RootsAction is so strong. I don't know if India is on here too, but just you all are the absolute truth. So having this call to organize, to talk about the future, to understand the future, though, we got to dip back into the past. We are driven and motivated by past, present, and future. Past, present, and future. Past, present, and future shape how we move forward. We have to have an understanding of the past. We got to strategically look at what is happening in the in the present, and then we got to plan for a future. And oftentimes the plans that we work on, just like the people who've come before, some of those people are still walking the face of this earth. They understood very much that the things that they were fighting for, they might not necessarily enjoy in their lifetime, but that did not stop them from fighting. So as the founder and leader of We Are Somebody, it is a coalition and capacity building organization for working class people from all walks of life, unionized, non-unionized, those working class people who making six figures and those who may be making 5 or even less than that. If you work for a living, you are a part of the working class. Some of us may be blessed to be more than 2 or 3 paychecks away, but ultimately, if you don't have a sugar daddy, a sugar mama, a trust fund, or sugar somebody, you work for a living, and we must build coalitions among class and caste. We have to understand that the system as it is designed was always designed to bear pressure on poorer people and then an extra type of pressure on Black people. I need to get a hello somebody if you understand what I am saying, that there is nothing worse than chattel slavery, the legacy of chattel slavery in the United States of America. And so that makes Black Americans who are descendants of those who were enslaved uniquely positioned in our liberation struggle to help to liberate other marginalized communities. Can I get a hello somebody in the chat? So, the freedom budget for all Americans, as envisioned by the architects, Asa Philip Randolph, one of the greatest unionists of the 20th century, lifted up, created the organization, started the organization, the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters. Baby, if you don't know that history, I double dog dare you to go and study it, putting everything on the line. He was threatened, just all kinds of stuff, in the same way that we see types of threats on justice warriors in our time. There were justice warriors in every generation, and we, yes, we are the personification of those justice warriors in our time. I don't know about you, but I'm just fed up. Things that I taught in my history classes as a college professor, I never thought that we would live through them, but we are living through a neo-fascist regime empowered by neoliberalism. The neoliberals cause this. Now, I often say neoliberalism will kill you slow and neo-fascism will kill you quick, but ultimately they both kill. And that is what is happening. So I love the demand for the Democratic Party to come forward and talk about a plan. Now, we know we got to fight against neo-fascism. That is a given. But what we must understand is that equally we must fight against neoliberalism, and we must have a vision. The human spirit craves to fight for something, not just against something. And it boggles my mind that even in this moment, with a 27% approval rating for the Democratic Party and about 36% for the Republicans, because so they can't holler too loud because their approval rating ain't much better. But the Democratic Party, the fact that it has not had an autopsy, the fact that it has not been bold to say that we will take dark money out of primaries minimally, I'm so glad that the congressman let it be known that the AIPAC DMFI strategy started in Ohio District 11. They didn't even want to let Sister Turner even make it in the door. And then they were able to build upon that and attack Congress members Bowman and Bush. They did the training in Ohio 11, and people must never ever forget it. And they were assisted by the neoliberals of the Congress. That is the truth. And so the Democratic Party has to decide, is it going to be the party of the corporate interests and the mega donors, or is it going to be the party of the people? You cannot do both. You cannot serve two masters. And so during the DNC convention, even this last convention, the most powerful people in terms of money were able to purchase loges high above for hundreds of thousands of dollars into the millions, looking down on the Democratic faithful. My indictment tonight is not the Democratic faithful. It is the so-called leaders of the Democratic Party that got us in this position in the first place. I argue that Senator Schumer should go, that leader Hakeem Jeffries should go. All of them folks that were architects in Trump being able to get a second run ought to go, because they don't know what the hell they are doing. They need to step out of the way. You cannot, with the same leadership, lead people to victory. So now let me get back to the freedom budget, because I'm all off my notes. The freedom budget is a vision for the future. It is something that all of us collectively can use to fight for. It might surprise you that all the progressive stuff that those of us who call ourselves progressives, because there's some faux progressives, I'm calling myself a liberator, Sam. You hear me? I don't even want to be called a progressive no more, because people playing games with the word progressive. I am a liberator. However, the architects of the freedom budget, they laid out all the stuff we're talking about right now, guaranteed income, universal health care, farm parity, making sure we take care of farmers, making sure we take care of those people who cannot and should not work. All of those things they had already thought of. Asa Philip Randolph leaned on the vision of FDR with the four freedoms. The freedom from fear, the freedom from want was the one that he really laser focused on, right? The freedom of speech and the freedom of religion. And those who understand the history, when FDR was talking about these things, he was not just talking about these things for those of us who live in the United States of America. He said we must have those things at home and abroad, because what he understood as a leader, that we're only so safe as a nation as our next nation and the next nation and the next next nation. What he understood is that what happens over there happens over here, that we can't be secure over here unless people are secure over there. Hello, Gaza. Hello, Congo. Hello, Yemen. Hello, Sudan. Hello, Haiti, and wherever people are oppressed in the world. It would behoove the Democratic Party to pick up that mantle. And even though FDR was not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, he understood that the American people were making a sacrifice during World War II, and he understood that he had to do something to guarantee. So that is why he wanted to do a second Bill of Rights. We call it the Economic Bill of Rights. That people, you cannot be free and be needy at the same time. And so the fact that we have a neo-fascist in the White House and neoliberals in leadership who answer to the same masters. They answer to the same owner-donors. They are the opposite sides of the same coin, and we must root them out. So the freedom budget for all Americans. Bayard Rustin, one of the architects of the civil rights movement, he said that this country never has and never will do anything solely for the Negro. That is really hard for the Black community to really come to grips with, but it is true. I say to you that this country was never designed for people who look like me, for people who are descendants of those who were enslaved to walk around this country as equals. We know that when white supremacy attacks and there's anti-Blackness, they come for everybody else. They come for women. They come for the LGBTQ plus community. They come for any marginalized group. They come for our otherly abled. Black folks are the canary in the coal mine. And so we have to understand that and stop playing games. The freedom budget for all Americans says everybody that is working class deserves certain things, that you have certain fundamental rights to clean air, clean water, clean food, to health care, to those fundamental things that will give you the ability to live your greatest greatness. That is what the freedom budget is all about. And so we are pushing that as a vision for the future. As others, that coalition that needs to be built, everybody has a role to play on that field. The freedom budget for all Americans. People understand what freedom means, and they understand what budget means, and they understand what all means. And the architects of the freedom budget, they had that vision way ahead of time. We are taking that and bringing it into the 21st century. We have added anti-war pro-peace. Hello, somebody. We have added no dark money in Democratic primaries. I want it in the general too, but come on, I get it from a tactical point of view. If we don't get both parties to do it, I understand why the Democrats might say, "Nah, look, we should do it in the primary. We can't necessarily do it in the general yet." But that doesn't stop us from pushing for it. I want the Democrats to come out bold right now, and say no dark money in primaries, and that any Democrat that takes money in dark money and corporate money in a primary, we don't want you. We don't want you. Let's see if they're willing to do that. I don't doubt that there are some people that have a lot of money who understand that what is happening in this country is untenable. I don't doubt that there are some people out there like that, because there are. The patriotic millionaires are such a group, and others. I get that. So they won't be mad that we're talking about the people who really have all of that money and they don't care what happens to the rest of us. It is an immoral system. It is an untenable system. It cannot last. And that is why we must push for the freedom budget for all Americans. And every single politician that runs for office that wants the votes of everyday people in this nation, they must say that they believe in the pillars of the freedom budget for all Americans. All. Lottie-dottie and everybody, as my grandmother would say. And so I want to close my remarks by saying this. James Baldwin once said that not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. We have an obligation to face the challenges and the inhumanity of our time. The same power structure that thinks it's okay to bomb people in Gaza is the same power structure that does not give a damn about whether the children in the city that I live in go to bed at night hungry. It is the same power structure that did not care that Norfolk derailed a train in East Palestine, Ohio, where there are poor, working class white folks who overwhelmingly voted for Trump. But when I went there to check on them, they said we want more government, not less. Hello, somebody. They understood that there was a crisis point. They said we want somebody to answer to what just happened to us. The antithesis of what the GOP is putting out there. When people are in dire need, that is when government should step in. Government is designed for us to do collectively what we cannot do as individuals. We need a social contract, and that freedom budget is the social contract. My last point on my last point. Progressives, those who call yourselves progressives, but you believe it in your heart, your mind, your soul, and the spirit. I want you to know that the American people are with you. They not with them other folks. They not with the neoliberals or the neo-fascists. If you ask somebody, would you like to go bankrupt because you can't pay your medical bills? It don't matter if they identify as a Republican, a Libertarian, a Democrat, a little country, little rock and roll. The average person is going to say, no, sir, no, ma'am. I don't want to go file bankruptcy because I can't afford to pay my medical bills. If you ask the average everyday American, would you like to have universal child care? They would say, yes, please. If you ask them, would you like to have autonomy in your workplace and not be retaliated against because you want to form a union? They would say, yes, please. More of that. So we need to understand, those of us who are on a justice journey, that the average everyday American is with us and the policies that we are pushing. They might not necessarily call themselves progressives, but they identify with the issues. So we must continue to fight for and fight against. We just can't be fighting against. We got to have a vision that provides provision for the people, and the freedom budget for all Americans is that vision.
Hello, somebody. And
Hello,
thank you. Thank you for lifting us up. You always do that. I think the first time I heard you speak, I sent a message to a friend of mine, and I said, I just felt the ground shake under my feet. And I do that every single time. 3 years has passed. So, Cynthia, I want to take you back to the Target boycott. On January 24th of 2025, Target announced plans to scale back its DEI program, including those aimed at advancing Black employees and promoting Black-owned businesses. Take us through how your leadership has uplifted this Target boycott and where we're sitting at and where we're at and how we're progressing.
Thank you for that question, Hania. Yes, on January the 24th, the CEO of Target, Brian Cornell, first name is Brian, I think I got that last name correct. On January the 24th, under the threat of the Trump administration, signed an executive order admonishing corporations who had a commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. I want you all to ask yourself, what is wrong with having a commitment to diverse, equitable, and inclusive environments? But here we are. So that was on January the 24th. On January 25th, We Are Somebody put out a statement that said that we are going to boycott Target on February 1. So from January 24th to February 1, the CEO of Target had every opportunity to come and try to have a conversation with We Are Somebody Until Freedom. And also we are in partnership with Reverend Jamaal Bowman in Atlanta. The Target fast was the first phase, like the activity phase of that boycott. They did no such thing. As you laid out, Hania, they said they're rolling back. They made several commitments after the murder of George Floyd, which was the right thing to do. The CEO said, and I'm paraphrasing him, but I almost got him verbatim, that George Floyd could have been one of his employees. And because of what happened to him was so extreme that he wanted to do something, that he was going to increase Black businesses within Target, that they were going to spend $2 billion with Black businesses across not just products in stores, but also in construction, and just other things as they built new stores and a whole sort of other promises. That was the right thing for him to do. But then he bit to bigotry. They bent to bigotry when he could have stood up like Costco did and other companies, the CEO of Marriott and others said, no, we're not going to bend to bigotry. But that is exactly what he did. So for 10 weeks, the foot traffic in Target has decreased. Their market share has decreased. They are feeling the pain of this boycott. We just had a town hall in Atlanta at Pastor Jamaal Bryant's church and said that we are going to continue to boycott Target. Target is the first of many. There is power in our purchase, and we should not allow these corporations to play us. And since these corporations, not just Target, but others, they want to fund politicians who don't do the right thing by the everyday people in this country. So as my grandmother said, we can show you better than we can tell you. Target is the first, but it is not the last. And I want to share a stat with the folks who have joined us. I want you to understand. So I need to get this stat exactly right. So I'm going to go to my notes because I want you to understand that Target is not the only problem. Target is part of a larger problem with the corporate states of the United States of America, because that's what we're dealing with, the corporate states. This CEO makes 719 times as much that the average employee at Target, 719 times more. 1,719 to 1. The average Target employee makes $26,000 and some change. I want you to go ahead and put in the chat, that ain't right. That ain't right. And this, he's not the only one. I'm trying to pull up some other stats here. They're not the only one. For Costco, it's about 262 to 1. Not good, but a little better. In earlier times in this country history, it was not, the gap between CEO pay and worker pay was not that stark. But as time has gone on, the gap between those pays have gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. It is immoral, and we must call it out. And we need a change in this country. Everybody in this country should minimally make a living wage. That's not asking for too much, a living wage. So we going strong. I'm asking folks to boycott Target. If you not, come on now. You ain't got to go nowhere. You don't have to, you just don't go to Target. That's all you got to do. You got other choices. And I know all those other choices, Hanya and Sam, are not the best. But we starting with one. We can't fight all these people at one time. We making an example of Target. We're going to move on to others. But we are asking you to not shop at Target. And if you want to support the Black-owned businesses, other businesses of color, if you want to support those businesses, go directly to those businesses' website. We created a list of all those businesses. But whatever you do not go to Target.
Well, thanks again, Senator. Thanks so much for being with us. It's always so great to have you on these calls, and we really appreciate you so much. Before we sign off tonight, I just want to boost again our call to action. We're asking folks to contact their reps and tell them to say to the DNC, join Congressman Rokana in saying to the DNC that we need an emergency meeting. We need an emergency meeting of the DNC now to talk about strategy, talk about how to combat Trumpism, talk about how to act like a real opposition party. So I'm going to put some text to our call to action there in the chat. You can see the petition that RootsAction has started. You can also see a link there to contact your congressperson. We want everyone to just take a few minutes right after this call, or do it tomorrow morning if you're on the East Coast like me and you need to go to bed after this call. Make sure to contact your rep and tell them that you're serious about this. You think it's time that the Democrats got serious about fighting against Trump. And a good first step in doing that will be to convene an emergency public meeting of the DNC. So please make sure to go to that link, go to our call to action, and learn more about how you can make that call. Thank you so much. And I'm going to pass it back to my colleague, Hanya, to close us out here.
Thank you so much. And I want to send all of my love and gratitude to Michael Greenberg, to Nikki Gott, to Senator Nina Turner, to former Representative Jamaal Bowman for joining us on this call. I want to extend my gratitude to our colleagues, Bill Lackenmacher, my co-host Sam Rosenthal, and Norman Solomon of RootsAction, Ryan Black. The one thing I do want to urge everyone to take a moment and do, there's many of you still on this call. In addition to taking this call to action, which takes about a second, we have prepared a script for you. You can call your representative. Chances are they're not going to pick up the call, but tomorrow morning you can flood their voicemails with this request. There has to be an emergency meeting. There has to be a reckoning for the DNC. And we're going to continue on pushing forward on this issue. But I do want to urge you to do something else and take a moment to do that. I'm going to share a link with you here in the chat. RootsAction has been quietly at the forefront of many of these fights. And oftentimes, I always say Norman Solomon and Jeff Cohen are some of the most humble folks that I've ever met in my life, right? They don't boast our successes as much as, Roots Action really truly deserves. But having a teach-in committee where we organize organizers on campuses across the country, having an initiative like Diffuse Nuclear War, where we are promoting and fighting against nuclear weapons. And we've just launched a No War with Iran campaign and many other campaigns that we've been leading, in addition to many of our other organizing around whistleblower support and so on and so forth. This work has to continue. And in order for this work to continue, we have to ask for your support. And so I shared a link with you, our donation link in the chat with you. And if it's within your power to give about $5 a month, $27, $50, whatever it is that is within your budget to help us continue the work that we do. We truly, truly appreciate you. You can give to our C4, you can give to our C3. I'll share my information with you also in the chat. If you want to make a large donation to the organization, please go ahead and contact me, and I'm more than happy to facilitate that for you. Again, your donations will be tax deductibles to our C3 and to our C4. It would help us continue the wonderful organizing that we do. And with that said, if there are no other questions or no questions in the chat, I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for sticking around with us, as many of you that have stayed with us for an hour and a half almost. And we look forward to organizing with you. I will leave my email in the chat. And if you don't mind, Sam, if I leave your email also in the chat for folks to connect with us, and again, let us know, and take a moment to study our website. For those of you who are joining us for the very first time, don't know about the organization, take a moment to study us and make that donation, whether it's $5, $10, $2,700, whatever is within your budget, so we can continue the work that we do. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here. Thank you, Sam, for everything, and we look forward to seeing you soon.